And we're going to be continuing our video series on commercial leases. We're going to talk about a couple of terms here that you often see together. But before I begin, be sure you click the subscribe button. You can see that down below there. If you hit the little bell symbol, you'll also get notice when we upload new content. So the terms that we're going to be talking about today are assignment and subletting. Now, these are often buried towards the back of a commercial lease. It's one of these kinds of, well, if you talk to commercial real estate people, they'll say it's a standard term or it is a boilerplate term, and to a certain extent it is. But first of all, let's define what assignment is. Assignment is transferring the lease to another person. So it often comes in things like you won't, shall not assign, transfer, move, or hypothecate, or what have you, various sorts of fancy legal terms that have the meaning of you can't transfer the lease to a third party without the consent of the landlord. So let's say you sell your business and the new owner of your business is coming in. You cannot assign the lease to that new person or to that new business entity without the consent of the landlord. Most of the time, landlords will consent. The point in which they might not consent might have more to do with the personal guarantees rather than the actual assignment of the lease. So basically, assignment is you are vacating the space and somebody else is going to come in and take over the lease. You have to have consent of the landlord to do that. Subletting, most people are aware of what it is. Basically, you are granting the right to use a certain segment of your business to another person. In exchange, that other person is going to pay you for the right to use that space. So let's say you have a large office space. Maybe you're a doctor or some other type of professional, and you've got space in your office that's segregated off that you can sublet to another tenant. So that tenant would then pay you a rent, and then you turn around and pay your landlord the rent, subleasing. You also can't do that usually without the consent of the landlord. And one of the things that is almost vitally important that will often be ignored or a lot of people forget, even if the landlord allows you to sublet that space to somebody, it does not mean that you are relieved from the duty of paying all of the rent, all of the additional rent, all of the fees, everything. So if your subtenant is late on their rent, you can't turn around and say to your landlord, well, my subtenant is late on the rent, so I can't pay you. Landlord ain't going to care. He's going to say, well, that's fine, but you have an agreement with me to pay X number of dollars per month. Fork it over. So assignment and subletting you are allowing a third party into the relationship between you and the landlord. Whether you are then withdrawing, that's the assignment, or you're still going to be involved, a subletting, either one of these situations, you have to have approval of the landlord. Sometimes that approval will say the landlord can't withhold approval except in reasonable circumstances, but almost the most important time, but almost the only time that the landlord won't do that is if it is a concern about the personal guarantee. So they may ask you to be personally guaranteeing the lease, and they don't want to exempt you from that personal guarantee, even if you are assigning. I have had deals where the tenant has sold the entire business to a third party, but the landlord would not let the original tenant out of the personal guarantee for some period of time. So you got to sort of keep those things in mind. We're going to be doing some more of these videos, but in the meantime, please, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, do so by clicking this button right up here. You can also see other content that we put together right up here by clicking that. And of course, you can check out all of our content at Mattthelawyer.com, and you can also check out the rest of this playlist. Speak to you all later. Go out and watch some live soccer.